if you love the writing process, and I promise young authors it is a beautiful process.
Mm-hmm.
If you truly love your story and you love the way it's being written, then it can take 10, 20 years to write or finish. If you love the way you do it, then it won't matter how long you take.
Digital Audio Health by Simatrax.
I'd like to welcome to the show Yamikani Kafungu, author of Battle Cry. Welcome to the show, Yami.
Thank you for having me, Ms. Grant.
You're welcome, and you may call me Rhonda. I am so impressed with you. You are a very young author, and you have already written a book. Can you think back to a time when you first started to write?
When I first started to write, it was probably about when I was 9 or 10. I was a very imaginative kid
Mm-hmm.
and I was a really big anime fan. So mangas and anime, they always like came into my mind, and that's how I came up with the ideas that I did. I obviously didn't publish them, but it was fun. It was kind of like an escape for me, a way to
Mm-hmm.
relax and like bring my fictional ideas into life. I'd say I wrote when I was 9, and then I started this book when I was about 11 or 12, I can say.
Wow. Well, what struck me with this book is that the intonation that you had at such a young age, your ability to have characters carry on a conversation and also give a really clear picture of what was going on in the book. And so, young talent. Who was the first person who said, I think you might have something here?
My friend, Bran, he
Mm-hmm.
was a very brilliant child at that, very brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw me writing. I asked him to read this because he was so brilliant, and I wanted a brilliant guy to see if this was brilliant or not. And he
Yes, of
told me,
course.
it's actually that good. He thinks I have an eye for this. And he said, you actually might have to publish this. I would encourage you to publish it. And over time, more and more of my peers and then my parents also said, this is good. You should publish. And then a couple of months later to a year, I'm sitting right here in front of you. So, yeah, a lot of encouragement from my peers and family.
Mm-hmm. Where did you get the idea from?
I am a huge history fan. I love history.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom loves movies, especially action movies. So I was learning about history, or
Mm-hmm.
and then my mom said, come, let's watch a movie. So I forgot what movie we had watched at the time, but I thought, oh, this is cool. And then I went back to doing something for a world history class in high school, and I thought, why don't I just like combine like a little bit of, medieval history and knights, and let me just like bring a little bit of action to this. And I was like, oh, this actually might be good. This is actually
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And I kind of just dove in to this thing, and I kept watching more movies with my mom, and I kept diving in more than I needed to into learning about history and more of like the ancient wars and tactics that went on. And it just built so beautifully. I don't even know how to explain it anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that imaginary process is a very difficult thing to describe. So you're in company with that. Tell me, did you ever dream about writing a book or content that you actually used in your book? Did you ever dream about it ahead of time?
Dream in my sleep, no. Daydream all the time. It
Yes.
was like a constant thing. I still do to this day because I just find it so fascinating that I'm willing to spend like almost hours thinking and then like writing and then playing around with different ideas. It's fun. I really enjoy this. I really do enjoy this. I think that's all I can
Have
say.
Yeah. So have you shared your writing in school at all?
Yes, in eighth grade with a couple of my parents. All of them thought it was good. All of them had things to point out. I was always one to ask for advice or ask what you liked or how it could be better. It was a fun because it also made me a better writer, but it gave me a chance to interact with my friends on something that I quite enjoyed and something they actually didn't mind helping me on. And we had many amazing conversations about this, and like so much was just enjoying, if I'm being honest. It
Mm-hmm.
was fun.
Mm-hmm. So you've published your first book, and later on we'll talk about where people can purchase your book. Do
Mhm.
you have any dreams, or have you already begun a follow-up book to this book?
Yes, there is a follow-up book because the last friend I shared this with was really upset at me for the way the
Mm,
book ended because he
okay.
thought it was a bit abrupt. There has to be
It
like a
was.
continuation. There has to be like
Yes.
a continuation. It can't just end like this because I have questions. What's gonna happen? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I actually have to keep going now because he was so upset at me and told me to keep going, and I was motivated to go again and keep going. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you might have a series on your hand here.
maybe.
Mm-hmm. So what does it feel like? I mean, you're a young student, you're a freshman,
Hmm.
and you also play some sports. Do you want to talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
I think we can, yes.
Mm-hmm. So what sport are you in that you're enjoying?
As of my freshman year, I was kind of caught up with my book, so I couldn't really like jump into sports, but I have done many. Two sports in particular that I enjoy doing are European football and track and field.
Mm-hmm.
I began track and field my sixth grade year when I was still back in Africa. And they did this thing where it was like, come outside, parents could come and see your children participate in these events. What particular events I was good at were the 200-meter dash.
Huh?
That was one I was very fond of. And high jump. I think I was good at that. Hurdles, I tried, but I never really continued. I think those two sports were one, and European football. Um, the biggest sport in my country is football, European football. And I have to say I fell in love um from an anime actually, not from actually watching the real thing. So like it was this certain anime, and then I actually went to the real thing that I started playing with my friend often. I tackled a lot of positions, but I prefer to be a goalkeeper because that feels the most comfortable with me. I
Mm-hmm.
love it actually. Those are the only two sports I play. I might think about jumping out my comfort zone, but as for right now, I think I'll just stick to those two. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about Africa there. You were born in Africa
I lived there for 10 years, yes.
for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And do you miss it? I mean, you're in the US now. You came to the US 4 years ago.
Hmm.
And do you miss Africa and their ways of life? Like, how is their ways of life different from what you're experiencing right now?
I mean, if I'm being honest,
Mm-hmm.
I really do miss home. Maybe it's
Yeah, oh,
because I have a
yeah.
bias, but I love my home. The United States is a great country. Don't get me wrong. It is
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful, amazing country. But, you know, home just felt more I'm used to.
Mm-hmm.
The people are amazing. Uh, I experienced a lot of amazing things, a lot of amazing natural attractions. It was beautiful, I can say. I went to one of the best schools in my city, in Kana
Mm-hmm.
Trust School. That was the school I
Mm-hmm.
went to. It was an amazing school. I can remember all my teachers by name and what grade because it was just that memorable to me. I can
Yes.
remember most of my class by name because it stuck with me so much that
Mm-hmm.
I can say it was a beautiful place. I would love to go back. I would love to
Mm-hmm.
visit my family again. Yes, but to anyone who would like to go visit, I would very much encourage you to go visit, please.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, yes, I mean, there is a strong pull to all humans, I think, to want to go back to their hometown. Usually they say their hometown, or their home country, because your young life is so impressionable that that's why it feels like home. And it doesn't matter how many countries you live in and go to school, those formative years have a huge impression on the whole rest of your life. And so I love how candid you are about how much you loved and how much you remembered. And as you miss them, they probably really miss you as well.
Thank you.
So does your parents have any thoughts of you returning to your home country for a visit or anything like that in the near future?
We plan to go August of 2025. We plan to go and see family again. My cousins are growing a lot older, and it's kind of sad. I'm not going to lie to you. It's kind of sad because when I left, they were small, and like now
Mm-hmm.
they're so big. It's kind of sad not being there, and like so I really want to go back and just see them and like
Yeah.
just be with them again because
Mm-hmm.
I just miss it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you feel that you've missed out on watching them grow up, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you plan on doing with your life once you graduate? I mean, you need to graduate from high school, and then do you have thoughts of going on to education after that?
As I'm being honest with you, I do not know yet.
Yeah.
It's something I don't like to think about, but I know I have to think about. I just want to take small steps at a time and
Mm-hmm.
just see out all my viable options. Maybe I'll know in the next year or two, maybe four, but as of right now, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is just learning all the different things that you could do or be in the world, and already starting as a writer the way you are. I mean, we never know how these things will shape our destiny.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, this could be the beginnings of you being a famous author.
I like to think like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, because, there's not a lot of young people who would spend the time to write. And I mean, very young, you're very young, to spend the time to write, to have a confidence to share with their peers the work that they've done. I mean, that takes a lot of confidence. And so you're very serious about your work. You're very serious about your writing. And because people said, they didn't like it was the end of the book, they wanted to know more and what's going to happen next, which sort of gives you the inspiration to follow that up. And when you become quite a bit older and you look back, you're going to see how significant this really was in your life. Now, what was his name? Who was that said that to me? Like, you might not even remember who the person was, but it doesn't matter that you remember them or not. It matters that they help guide you to write your next book.
Thank you
Is
for
this
that.
correct? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so, what do you have the name of your next book set out yet?
I mean, the battle cry part is gonna stay. That's
Mm-hmm.
certain. I have options, but I feel I give out too much if I
Oh, yeah.
said it. So I think I'm just gonna keep my options to myself until the book is actually published.
Yes, because this could go into a series.
Hmm.
If you wanted it to, it could go into a series, or you could take a different turn, right? And
Hmm.
um, and that's why people usually end up being interviewed after their first book, is because it also helps define or undefine where you're going to go next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening to Rhonda Grant with Courting Your Soul. And today I have the great pleasure to be speaking with a young author, 14 years old, and he's already writing his second book, Yamikani Kafu. And can you let the audience know where they may purchase your book if they wanted to pick that up?
My book, Valkyrie Descent into War, can
Mhm.
be purchased at Amazon, Rise Republic, or Barnes& and Noble. Those are the three places where you'll find my book, I assume. I know of, yes.
Mhm.
I want to tease a bit of my new book, the book
Okay.
that's gonna come out later.
Okay.
So it's very entertaining. new characters, a lot of references and inspiration, and a little bit of, just a comedic but yet relatable rambunctiousness is going to be added to this book. So, everyone, please be excited. I might release it. Release date might be between January and March of 2025.
Okay.
Uh, so just be ready. Maybe it might be earlier, but yes. And also, I will give out more details on my social media. My Instagram is Connie3.16, all lowercase, no spaces, just Connie3.16, Kani 3.16. And just give me a follow and I might follow you back. And I'll try and keep all of you updated on my situation and how writing is going. Uh, yeah, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay. The listening audience, they're going to be wondering, how actually did you develop these characters that you have in this book?
Okay, so I think it's best we start with the main character, Theo.
Yeah, yeah.
Theo is an innocent child, an innocent 12-year-old. He's fun, outgoing, brave, but at the same time unknowing of the world around him. He is, or should I say, he was like me. I have changed a bit, but a big part of Theo's still in me. And I think that's why I'm connected with him so much. Another character that I found quite interesting was Theo's father, Matteo, as in like what I should probably include that Theo is just a shortened version of Matteo because he is Matteo Jr. after all.
Hmm.
So his father, Matteo, he is the greatest military mind of the century in the world right now, quite possibly the most famous person in all of Europe. And that is because of his extreme military brilliance. He actually created a whole new ranking for himself called the Supreme Knight ranking, which he's the only person to ever win. Theo looks up to Matteo a lot, and Matteo is many things. On top of being a great leader, I try to write him as a great father who is very brave and very initiative. He enjoys to take the initiative and lead others who might not be able to lead themselves into tough situations. He was by far my most favorite character to write in this book because of what he did in Spain and the way it got captured. Oh, they gave too much. But yes, he was by far one of the most interesting and significant characters that will play in the story. Another one I should include is Theo's adopted older brother, Jules, who's just 3 years older than him. Jules was the last character I added. In fact, a part of me still doesn't know why I added him, but he is very, very dedicated, a very disciplined child. He looks up to Matteo a lot, and thanks to the fact he wants to be like him, he takes his job as the older brother and a squire to Matteo very seriously, and he is quite skilled and brilliant with taking initiative. He's a fast learner and will do anything to improve. We might consider him a people pleaser. A fun fact about Jules is that he has competed in many tournaments for squires, but he's never lost. I think that's just a thing I like to add in. He loves Theo, and I think as we read into the book after Matteo goes to Spain, you'll understand why he loves Theo so much and how he shows his love to Theo. These two may not be characters, but they are big, really significant. That is the countries of France and Spain. Matteo is French, and the country they go to war against is Spain. Now, often I get asked, why did you choose Spain? Why did you choose France? Is it because you're biased? If I'm being honest, maybe a bit, but the three countries I originally thought of were England, France, and Spain. Though England has a very rich history, and in my eyes is probably the most significant and dominant empire in the world, in history, as a matter of fact, I preferred France. I went with France mainly just because of their history with knights, and I chose them to oppose Spain because they're just so close together. But when I say oppose, I'm not trying to say, oh, Spain is a bad guy, France is a good guy. Because in my eyes, war isn't like, or war is rarely good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy. It's more, I like to think of it more as a disagreement, I would say. It's where there are no wrong sides. They're just two people that don't agree because they're people, very good, good-hearted people that just will not agree on this one certain topic, and irrational decisions tend to be made. That's how I like to think of a war most of the time. And those two countries, for me, they will deliver an interesting war, I will say. Yeah, I think that's as far as I go with the characters.
Hmm. What inspired you to delve into history?
I loved social studies when I was younger. I wanted
Hmm.
to visit places and go see the world. And as I grew older, I started go picking up on US history, which I still love to this day. It's one of my favorite topics of history to pick up on. And then I also love world history, which I took this year in freshman year.
Hmm.
These two pieces of history for me are so cool, I can say. But my love for history always stemmed from it's fascinating to see like people do crazy things and how one man can change the course of history forever. I mean,
Yes.
many figures did it. We have George Washington, Napoleon, Alexander the Great. So many figures that without them, we might live in an entirely different world. So
Oh,
I
yes.
think history is more, it's not really a subject, it's more of a story, the story of humanity. That's how I like
Hmm.
to feel it. I think that's why I
Hmm.
love history so much.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's a story of humanity. Your book that you're writing right now, or that you finished writing, I love the animation in it. And so you've been able to take your love for history and write a book that has a lighter sort of sense to it than our true history, right?
Hmm.
Who helped you with the graphic design of the book?
It's actually a funny story behind that, actually.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a big anime fan.
Mm-hmm.
I also tend to doodle every once in a while on a piece of paper.
Yes.
So when I was doing my publishing, they said, do you have any idea for a cover? And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh no, I thought you guys were just gonna read and come up with this cool cover.
Yes.
And they told me, oh, that's your job. So they said, okay, we can give you like half an hour. And I was like, oh no. So I get like a piece of paper, I sit
Mm-hmm.
down, and like in silence, scramble. Jules on the right, Matteo on the left. Matteo looking worried. Jules looks ready to do something. Like people under with pitchforks and shovels, an angry mob, because that's literally how it's gonna be, like an angry mob, and like a
Right.
beautiful sunset in the background. And I just sent it to them. I said, "Can you guys make something out of this?" And they did, and actually loved the cover a lot. So
Yes, it's
it's
really
beautiful.
nice.
Yes.
It's really nice. I wondered actually if you had done it.
Hmm. I did a good chunk of it. Yes.
Hmm. Very nice. Well, and I mean, they have graphic artists who can take that idea and, put a lot of really nice colors in it, which they have done. Did you choose the
Mhm.
colors as well?
Yes, I chose the
Yes.
colors as well. The title was them. I'll give them the credit for that. The title and like my name being there, that was them. But the background, the people with pitchforks at the bottom and the characters, that was me. I'll take
Wow.
credit for that one.
Wow. Sensational. It really
All right.
is.
Thank you.
Hmm. So would you like to describe to the audience, because we probably have some young budding authors in the audience today listening,
Mhm.
and they're going to want to know what was your process when you started to build this book, because it is a building, because you have to think about ahead of time with the chapters and different things like that. So can you talk briefly about that?
My writing process
Hmm.
was very complicated. It was my first time actually just like writing, and this
Hmm.
was the longest time I spent. I think I spent like almost over a year writing this book.
Hmm.
So I'd say it began somewhere when I was in eighth grade. I was told there was a competition and I was interested in this. I was writing. And then I said, okay, let me get to work. They tell me, we're sorry, it's too long. you have to shorten it. So I dropped out of the competition and I said, let me keep writing this.
Mm.
And it was very interesting because originally it happened in the Arabian Peninsula, and the original character's name was Muhammad Senior and Muhammad Junior, and it was going to be this whole thing that took place like literally when the first civilizations were being made.
Hmm.
And then I looked over it again, I read over it again myself, and I realized this is garbage. This is horrible.
Oh no.
I liked the base idea. I liked the
Hmm.
basis of the book, but everything built upon was horrible. So I scrapped everything. I
Hmm.
took that Word document and I removed everything from that Word document and I started afresh with the base idea. My
Hmm.
friend Bran, who I said is brilliant, gave
Yes.
me the three countries, England, France, and Spain, and I chose France and Spain. And I began to build my story over that. And then once the story just kept unfolding, it was more beautiful. It was more structure. The characters had more depth in them. But
Hmm.
then as I was
Hmm.
going through, a crucial part I thought was names. I had to give them like a name that sticks out. I can't name everyone a really common name that almost everyone has because, it's going to be hard to pick out that specific person. So I want to give them a name that has rarity, but at the same time has meaning and significance.
Hmm.
So I thought to Muhammad, and I was like, Muhammad, Muhammad, Muhammad. Oh, then I wanted to keep the M part, but I was thinking, what can I do? But then I thought back to my grandfather, actually, his name is Matthew, and he named three of his kids Matthew. And
Hmm.
Matthew. And then I did some research, Matthew, and then gave Matteo just happened. And if you'll happen to notice, if you read into my book, you notice that the main character Theo is actually Matteo the Fourth, which came from my grandfather in his side of the family, then being four Matthews in my book there, four Mattheos. And as the character went, as the story went on, it was interesting because I didn't want there to be a clear good, bad. I wanted that to be like a complexity of agree and disagree. I just I wanted to have more depth than your classic black and white, which I'm not against a black and white story. I love The Lion King, very good black and white story, but I just felt I needed to add a little bit more complexity in the book. As I was entering my polishing phase, I thought to myself, oh, this is beautiful. And then I was like, let me just end this with a bang, an abrupt ending. Perfect. Because I thought, what if I want to write another one again? And then I
Yeah.
told myself, it's ended abruptly. And if people like it and want more, then we give them more. Perfect. So I ended it abruptly on purpose. I know some people think the ending was bad, but I just want people to know that it was on purpose and it just was beautiful, I can say. Yes.
Hmm.
I think that was the
And
beauty of my writing process. Mhm.
yeah, and so from the time you scrapped your original idea that was inspired by a competition coming up to when you started to write the way you wanted to write, basically, because I know with competitions you have rules. There's rules to in the competition that you have to follow, like how many words and different things like that. So how long did it take you to write your book from the time that new process started?
Started in October, that's when the competition started. I scrapped everything by April. So from April to again October, so that's April, then those 4 months,
Hmm.
and September, 8, between 8 and 6 months.
8 and 6
That's
months.
when like the whole new thing came around.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people don't know how long it takes to write a book, and they think that's a long time. I know when I wrote my book, I had big aspirations to have it done by next month, right? And it took
Hmm.
me a year. It took me a year because just because of moving things around and really making it into a masterpiece, right? And so sometimes people will become discouraged if they think it's going to take them 6 months or 8 months to write a book. What would you say to them?
If you love the writing process, and I promise young authors, it is a beautiful process.
Hmm.
If you truly love your story and you love the way it's being written, then it can take 10, 20 years to write or finish. If you love the way you do it, then it won't matter how long you take.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer because you can lose yourself. And I don't mean like you lose all sense of time when you're involved in your book. And the fact that you've written a book and went to school, and I imagine you're quite a high achiever in school as well, if you're doing this on the side. So, you learn so much by being able to produce a body of work at your age and still being able to manage your school life and your friends and all of that. What advice would you give to young authors?
The advice I would give to young authors, don't do it out of competitiveness. Don't do it for the
Mhm.
seeking of attention, fame. Don't do it even for money. If you really want to be happy with what you've done, then do it because you want to do it. Do it because you want to take the time out of your day to sit down and write. Take the time of your day to think. If you do it that way, then I promise you that it will be the best, one of the best moments in your life. Whether
Mhm.
the book is really good or whether the book is really bad, if you really enjoy the process, then the book can be amazing. If you enjoy it, then it's amazing. That's the advice I can give others.
Beautiful. Do you feel that you've been called to your journey, crafted it, or a bit of both?
My journey, I can say maybe it was quite unexpected because in the moment before the competition, I was quite bored. I wasn't doing a lot at the
Mhm.
time. It was literally just go to school, come home, take a nap, play video games, eat,
Yeah,
and sleep. And you know, the first couple of weeks of doing it, it's fun, it's relaxing. And then
yes.
after like a few months, you're like, this is boring. I wanted to do something. And then the competition came around and I thought, wait, let me enter, because what do I have to lose? Doesn't cost me anything. So, and then it just kept going. And I thought, wow, if the competition had really happened, I would still be coming back from school and just eating and playing video games and just sleeping all the time. And I thought,
Mhm.
this is actually pretty good. Yes.
Mhm. And you're speaking to young adults who are doing just that, and they don't know what else to do. They might not think, oh, I could be writing a book instead of spending all this time with video games, right? Did you want to comment further on that?
To those young adults who think they can't write a book, I'll give you an honest piece of advice from me.
Hmm.
I was not the biggest bookworm in the world. I was not a nosediver into books. I know people tend to think that authors are the biggest bookworms who have like hundreds of thousands of collections of books. But in my experience, I wasn't. I was not the biggest fan of reading. And it wasn't until I came to the United States that the librarian at my school said, how about you read this story? It's called The New Kid by Jerry Craft. And I thought,
Mm.
oh, maybe. So even though it's not like your traditional book, it was more of a graphic novel. I said, let me try this. Why not? I dove in and I related to the main character, Jordan, so much that I said, I'm gonna read the other two books and I'm reading the third one right now. And then my mom said, why don't you read this book? Um, it's called The Judge's List by John Grisham. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh crap. And then like the main character, I think her name was Lacey. It's been a while since I read the book, but she inspired Matteo a lot. And so to those who think that I'm not meant to read, I'm gonna tell you from me, I wasn't the biggest bookworm. I know it sounds like I read a lot out of what I said, but really I don't read as much as people think I would read. And it just shows that you need imagination because all my work didn't come from books. Either came from anime, manga, real life experiences, real world events that count. You can get inspiration from almost everywhere in my eyes. So I would encourage open your laptop, pick up the pen, start writing. Even if you can only get like 5 sentences the first time, get those 5 sentences in. You can do another five in an hour or maybe stop for the week. That's what I did, and then do like half a page the next week. Just build your love for it. I promise you, it is an amazing process and just a way to let your mind unfold because you can see the beauty of imagination in it.
hmm Well, and I think that, as human beings, we all have an imagination. We all think up really neat things. But I think that when the youth and the adults as well are distracted all the time with social media and video games and all the sorts, we discard our imagination and we almost quit having imagination. But you are a very wise young man. For 14 years of age, you have a lot of really good, substantial advice for people who will be listening and wonder if they should spend time using what's in their imagination and putting it down on paper. So it's incredible, the advice that you give. It's just amazing. Thank you. What extraordinary discovery have you found in your life?
In my life. Well, I'll tell you, my life has been quite eventful, I can say.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving my beautiful home
Mm-hmm.
country, my friends, the people I knew, and just coming to the United States, that was a big move for me. And I thought to myself, how can I do this? I can't do this. I have too much connection back home to just let go. And when I came here, I thought, oh no. And I actually did try out for a couple of sports teams that I didn't end up making. And that was quite discouraging
Mm-hmm.
for me, especially seeing others who did. And it kind of left me in this state of fine. And quickly, as I know, I stopped enjoying going to church. I would find excuses to stop going to church. I was in the state of just existing for the purpose of existing. I was just there to be there. And when
Mm-hmm.
you live your life like that, it becomes null. Life feels meaningless. It's not until I actually started feeling something or started actually like trying to do new things that life gives itself meaning again.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I started writing my book again, I started going back to a new church and life just had more and more and more to offer. I feel happier than I was. I know it sounds, might I even say, cringy for the people of my age watching this, but I'm telling you, it is a beautiful thing. Just give yourself a purpose, give yourself a reason. And I promise you, I know some things we do don't work out. It's hard to accept that, but if you just open your eyes to this beautiful horizon that is in front of us, you can do so much more. That is what I believe. So, have I been called to do this? Do I believe something has changed in me? Have I discovered something? I have discovered a whole secret side of myself that I didn't know. A side that wants to think deeper, wants to know more, wants to do more stuff. This side of me is just much more ambitious, I can say. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how can I describe it? It's like watching a flame burn. It's like lighting a forest or a campfire. It's like throw a little bit of lighter fluid and a match in there, it just like burns. And it's so beautiful to see and so beautiful to feel that I promise you, once I hope everyone can find what they found. I hope they find it, what I found. I hope they can find it because this fire that burns is an experience that I believe every human being should experience at least once in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, that's just wonderful. Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for being on the show. You're inspiring. And
Thank
I
you so
think,
much.
I see a really big future for you, and you've had the opportunity to surround yourself with people who have believed in you and has lended a hand to help you get to where you're going. And there's nothing better than that.
Thank you for that. Yes,
You're
I appreciate that a lot.
you're welcome. So thanks so much for being on the show, and I hope to talk to you another time.
Okay, thank you for having me. I hope to speak to you again someday.
You're welcome. I do too. Thank you for listening to Courting Your Soul with Rhonda Grant, whose podcast has been treated with digital audio health by my sponsor, Samatrax. Theme song for Courting Your Soul is Sun on the Water, composed and performed by John Park Wheeler.